made advances towards him for the 99th time. Robert Blackwood finally relented, handing me a room key card. 7 p.m. Don't be late. Clutching the room key card, I was ecstatic, believing 7 years had finally melted the ice mountain that was him. But I unexpectedly overheard the whole thing was a scheme to take private photos of me and force me to break off the engagement. David, his assistant, couldn't bear it and advised, "Mr. Blackwood, Miss Chloe Miller has already entered a convent. You should cherish the person in front of you." Robert Blackwood was displeased. "Shut up. What do you know? If Clara Miller hadn't returned for her family reunion, leaving Chloe nowhere to go, she wouldn't have entered the convent. We wouldn't have had to separate. Don't say another word, just do as I told you. As for Clara, I will ensure her future is secure." That's enough. Trembling, I dropped the room key card, letting scalding tears stream down my face. That night, faced with the engagement agreement to marry in her place in Metropolis, I no longer resisted. I picked up the pen and wrote, "You can't sign this, miss. The rumors say that man in Metropolis is not only disfigured but also a cripple. His temper is unpredictable, and he loves to torment people. The Sterling family mansion staff change constantly. How could you possibly endure it if you go there, miss?" Aunt Martha, the nanny, tugged at my hand holding the pen, her eyes filled with tears, urging me to think twice. I gently shook my head, a bitter smile on my face, and signed with a stroke. As I signed, Father breathed a sigh of relief. Mother, even more impatient, snatched the engagement agreement and clutched it to her chest. Rarely, she spoke to me with a voice full of smiles. "Clara, you can't just look at a man's appearance. Although Daniel Sterling doesn't have good looks, he's already taken charge of the Sterling family's century-old business at such a young age." They didn't me. I could understand that. But how many parents would be so eager to push their own daughter into a fire pit? If he's really that good, then let Chloe Miller marry him. Following her words, I couldn't help but let out a scoff. Mother's smile instantly froze on her face. She clutched the engagement agreement in her arms even tighter. "What kind of talk is that? Chloe is your sister. She's already entered a convent. What more could you be dissatisfied with? Do you have to force her to her death? Chloe is the child we raised since childhood. We would never abandon her. Besides, the Sterling family wants a Miller family daughter. Clara, don't be willful. Take the 5% shares of Miller Corporation as part of her settlement. This matter is decided. The Sterling family will send someone to pick you up in a week. Don't wander off lately." Father extinguished the cigarette in his hand, his voice flat and decisive, giving me no opportunity to speak further before leaving coldly. Mother caressed the engagement agreement and happily pushed open the closed door of the second-floor chapel. Looking at the incoming call on my phone screen, I calmly pressed answer. "Clara, you have 10 minutes to get to the Grandview Hotel. Otherwise, even if you keep chasing after me for another 7 or 10 years, you'll never become Mrs. Blackwood. Don't forget, if Chloe hadn't entered the convent, this engagement wouldn't even be yours." Robert Blackwood, do you want me to be ruined that badly? Ignoring Robert Blackwood's cold words, I clutched the phone closer to my mouth. "Chloe Miller is leaving the convent." My voice was very light but clear enough to shake Robert Blackwood's heart. Sure enough, the previously noisy call fell silent instantly. The cane dropped with a thump, revealing his loss of composure. Being hung up on without warning was the norm. I silently closed the phone interface, but the 3 words fiancé still stung my eyes, making them ache. Ever since Chloe Miller entered the convent, everyone felt they owed her and tried every possible way to compensate her. Father feared she would suffer outside the home if she entered the convent, so he opened up the second floor to build her a chapel. Mother feared she would be exhausted praying day and night, so she sent countless treasures every day to nourish her. Even my fiancé was constantly thinking of her, finding ways every day to remain faithful to her, even calculating and destroying me at all costs. 7 years, and in the end, I had nothing but emptiness. My fingernails dug into my flesh. I bit my lips until they bled to stop the ache in my nose. "We'll arrange a family reunion party for you tomorrow, on short notice. Remember to dress appropriately." Don't disgrace the Miller family. Mother casually instructed from upstairs. It strangely cleared the gloom in my heart, leaving me somewhat in a daze. 7 years ago, they canceled my family reunion party for Chloe Miller. 7 years later, my belated family reunion party was finally held, and it was still for Chloe Miller. No longer entangled, I picked up my phone and booked a flight to Metropolis. In a week, I would no longer be a Miller family daughter, nor would I have any connection whatsoever with Robert Blackwood. The next day, guests arrived one after another. This Miller family is really something. 7 years ago, they said she was the nanny's daughter. 7 years later, she's transformed into a Miller family daughter. She'd been chasing Mr. Blackwood's son for 7 years, made advances towards him countless times. She's probably shameless. Now the Sterling family from Metropolis is asking for a Miller family daughter, so they might as well hold this family reunion party and send her over to pay off a debt, to be used to bear children for that disfigured cripple. The vulgar remarks from the crowd made me uncomfortable. Subconsciously, I looked towards Robert Blackwood. He was Alria. DY seated at the main table, his hand rubbing his crutch, eagerly looking towards the second-floor chapel. His expression hadn't changed in the slightest, as cold as usual. I withdrew my gaze and adjusted my elegant dark green gown, trying to appear presentable, or at least not lose my composure. The men's whispers behind me grew more vicious. The next moment, a cold crutch swung past my ear. The man gossiping behind me let out a howl and immediately fell to his knees, begging for mercy. Robert Blackwood, dragging his lame leg, limped angrily towards the gossiping man, looking as if he would tear him to shreds the next moment. Robert, don't be impulsive. I don't mind those words. The rest of her words caught in her throat, and her outstretched hand froze in midair. If I hear anyone discussing Chloe again, they'll face the consequences. Leaving this harsh warning, Robert Blackwood took the crutch David had picked up and turned to leave. Immediately, the surrounding crowd began to murmur, with laughter, sympathy, all sorts of strange looks circulating. I let out a self-mocking laugh. Sure enough, only Chloe Miller could stir Robert Blackwood's emotions. Pretending not to care, I turned to return to my seat, only to see Chloe Miller sitting in my place in a white gauze dress, with Robert Blackwood skillfully adjusting her wig beside her. I just left the chapel and haven't had time to socialize. I want to sit with Robert. Sister, could you let me have your seat? Chloe Miller asked. Robert Blackwood immediately looked up at me, the coldness in his eyes completely unconcealed. It's just a seat. If Chloe wants it, take another one. I paused for a moment, then recovered and pulled open the chair beside me. As I sat down, I could still hear Chloe Miller's flirtatious murmur, Robert, serving me food will make people misunderstand. Every minute felt like torture. I desperately wished for it to end quickly. Finally, Father's solemn introduction came. From the banquet stage. I was mentioned in a single sentence, the rest was all about Chloe Miller. Mother looked at her lovingly while announcing, although Chloe isn't our biological child, she spent 7 years in the convent, praying for the Miller family with good intentions. Now that she's no longer a nun, Miller Corporation will be inherited by her from now on. There was an uproar below. Those who had been offering me a toast turned to flatter Chloe Miller after hearing this. I heard Chloe Miller say to that person, "You shouldn't. Sister might mind." Why would she? She hasn't said anything. I remained silent, not bothering to argue. 15 years of hardship couldn't compare. I knew clearly that whatever I had, father and mother would compensate Chloe Miller double. After all, in their hearts, Chloe Miller was their child. From the Davies of South Side, a set of gilded tableware, from the Elliots of North Side, an antique embroidered screen. The master of ceremonies announced the gifts. I thanked them and accepted each one, until a pair of Blackwood family ancestral emerald bracelets. I stared at Robert Blackwood, stunned. I knew this family reunion party wouldn't be simple. To think she's now tied to the Blackwood family. A sudden voice echoed in the banquet hall. After all, the meaning behind ancestral bracelets was crystal clear to everyone from these families. As soon as my hand touched the gift box, it was snatched away from me. Chloe leaving the convent is a big event. Don't dislike this small token of appreciation. Chloe Miller demurely declined, but the emerald ancestral bracelet was already on her wrist. Now this is a match made in heaven, perfectly suited. People below began to step forward one by one to offer their blessings, squeezing me to the outer edge of the crowd. Taking the gift box the master of ceremonies handed me, I quietly withdrew from the crowd. Looking at the gift meant for me in my hand, an emerald hair tiara. My heart felt heavy and suffocated. Finding a cigarette among the crowd, I strangely wanted to try one. I walked to the window. The first puff I took made me choke and tears streamed down my face. As I wiped away my tears, I heard the crisp clinking sound of bracelets near my ear. Sister, you're still useless. 7 years have passed, and Mom and Dad still love me the most. What does blood relation matter? You're still being sent away like trash to be married off in Metropolis. Oh no, to be precise, you're going to be a breeding tool. Chloe Miller covered her mouth demurely, and the crisp clinking of bracelets sounded again. Robert is the same. After 7 years, he still only acknowledges me as his fiancé. The ancestral bracelets have been sent. Sister, should I accept them or not? I put out the cigarette, my eyes fixed on Chloe Miller, observing her every move. After all, she was the most skilled at scheming. Back then, to seize my identity, she stabbed herself with scissors, cut off her beautiful hair, and framed me for forcing her to enter the convent, insisting on becoming a nun. Father's face darkened upon hearing it, and Mother remained silent. I hysterically tried to explain. Father was furious and slapped me to the ground, calling me cold-hearted and full of lies, and whipped my body with the thorny stems of roses. Dragging my bloodied body, I crawled towards Mother, who was watching me with tears. I grabbed onto her like a life raft, crying and explaining. Mother smiled and stroked my face. The next second, my scalp stung. Mother had cut several gashes with scissors before she was satisfied. Robert Blackwood happened to be visiting their home and intervened, stopping Father and Mother. He carefully disinfected and bandaged my wounds, but his expression changed when he heard Chloe Miller had been forced to enter the convent. After giving me a cold glance, he threw down the medicine bottle and turned to leave. From then on, everyone detests me. This time, I waited for Chloe Miller to pull the same trick, using the ancestral bracelet to scheme against me. She curled her lips into a smile, but then suddenly ripped off her wig, revealing a bald head, and slapped herself repeatedly until her face was red and swollen. She grabbed my hand holding the cigarette and pressed it straight into the hollow of her collarbone. It's hot. No, sister. Immediately behind me, I heard the dragging sound of a crutch. I knew it was Robert Blackwood. Sure enough, I was hit hard on the back of my head, and someone pulled my body away forcefully. Robert Blackwood dragged his lame leg, shielding the trembling Chloe Miller behind him. His chest heaved as he eyed me defensively. 7 years. I thought you had changed. I didn't expect you'd still be so cold-hearted. Do you think you're fit to be Mrs. Blackwood? Hearing the accusation, I inexplicably found it amusing. Misunderstood as I was, I didn't want to explain. He wouldn't believe me anyway. Silently, I picked up the crutch from the ground and handed it to Robert Blackwood. The doctor had said he shouldn't put too much strain on his leg, or he would be disabled for life. I didn't want the leg I had worked so hard to save to be ruined like this. What are you pretending? Can't you apologize? Do I have to teach you? Robert Blackwood didn't appreciate it and slapped my hand away. I froze for a second, meeting Chloe Miller's triumphant eyes. I'm sorry. Afraid they wouldn't be satisfied, I continued, adding a full 180-degree bow. I didn't want to be entangled, I just wanted to leave. My obedient attitude pleased Robert Blackwood. For the first time, he made a promise: as long as you stop targeting Chloe, I won't object to the engagement anymore. I had waited 7 years for that sentence. I finally got it today, but unfortunately, I no longer needed it. The moment I lifted my foot to leave, Chloe Miller plopped down onto her knees, crying tearfully. Who'd have left the chapel? Sister doesn't like it. I'll go back immediately. Please, sister, don't torture me anymore. The cigarette butt was so hot, I can't bear it. She put on a submissive act, picked up the cigarette butt from the ground, and handed it to me, acting docile, waiting for me to start the torment. Robert Blackwood couldn't believe it, but the scar on Chloe Miller's collarbone and the leftover cigarette butt forced him to believe. In a fit of rage, he grabbed my neck and pressed me against the window. In my ears were David's desperate pleas, "Mr. Blackwood, I don't think Miss Clara Miller is this kind of person. Please investigate before you decide, or once the scar is on her, there'll truly be no room for redemption, Mr. Blackwood." Robert Blackwood sneered disdainfully. "Are you telling me how to do my job? I think you've been fooled by Clara's deceptive appearance. No need to say more, light it." The air slowly filled with Robert Blackwood's unique cigar scent. Knowing what was about to happen, I couldn't stop myself from begging in fear. "Robert Blackwood, I didn't do it. You can't do this to me." My hysterical explanations that I hadn't burned her at all only resulted in repeated, soul-piercing pain. "Clara, do you know you're wrong?" After another session ended, Robert Blackwood continued to ask. My fingernails dug into my flesh, and I bit the inside of my mouth until it bled. I bit back any sound, trembling all over from the pain. The tip of my nose ached intensely. I wide-eyed, refusing to let tears fall, and absolutely refused to utter a single word admitting fault. Robert Blackwood stared blankly at the mist in my eyes, feeling an unusual heavy pain in his heart. He spoke irritably, "It's only right to repay debts, and the same goes for making mistakes. Don't blame me for being cruel." This time, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Not wanting to explain anymore, I tilted my neck, indicating the scar on my collarbone, and said indifferently, "In that case, may I leave now, Mr. Blackwood?" The unfamiliar title made Robert Blackwood's face darken. "Playing hard to get won't work. Get out!" Finding a gap, I turned and left without hesitation. But after only a few steps, a large group of reporters with cameras and microphones surrounded me. They continuously photographed the burn scar on my collarbone, which I hadn't had time to cover. "She's the one in those widely circulated intimate photos online. Look at the scar on her collarbone, that proves it. Quick, take pictures. Wow, there's still cigarette ash on it. I wonder if she just got out of some man's bed." As expected of a young lady from a prominent family, she really knows how to play. The flashlights were blinding, and my ears were filled with vulgar remarks. I forcefully knocked away the microphone shoved in my face. "You've got the wrong person. It's not me. I'm telling you, it's not me." I never expected that Robert Blackwood, for the sake of Chloe Miller, would stop at nothing, even fabricating private photos of me out of thin air. The reporters became even more frantic. Some, trying to get the best shots, deliberately tugged at my collar, aggressively taking photos of the cigarette burn on my collarbone. The buttons of the elegant dark green gown came undone with a single tug. A chill ran down my spine, and I froze in fright. I heard a man's anxious shout in my ear. "Clara!" Robert Blackwood struggled to push his way through. Behind him, a worried David tried to stop him. "Mr. Blackwood, your leg is injured. You can't go there." Ignoring the protests, Robert Blackwood stumbled and limped towards me, dragging his lame leg. As he reached for me to pull me away, Chloe Miller's terrified cries for help pierced the noisy crowd. "Don't touch me! Help, Robert, where are you?" The next moment, I watched as Robert Blackwood, without a moment's hesitation, took Chloe Miller's hand. "Clara, just bear with it for a bit. He'll only get physical, they won't do anything serious to you." My breath hitched. The crowd swallowed me once more. After watching Robert Blackwood embrace Chloe Miller and leave without looking back, the tears I had held back could no longer be stopped. While the man's heart and eyes were completely focused on Chloe Miller, I pulled my clothes tightly around myself and walked away unimpeded. After settling Chloe Miller, Robert Blackwood returned to the banquet hall with David. They searched everywhere but couldn't find a trace of me. At that moment, looking at the incoming call on my phone, I calmly pressed the power button to turn it off and casually tossed it into an airport trash can. Letting the coughing and tears happen, I forced myself to finish a cigarette. After that, I had no lingering feelings whatsoever and got on the plane with the people sent by the Sterling family. "Mr. Blackwood, there's still no news from Miss Clara Miller." David reported softly, his eyes cast down. The man asked David for the 99th time. The answer was still that I couldn't be found. A hint of impatience showed in his eyes. The air was noticeably heavy. Robert Blackwood held a cigar in one hand, while the other rubbed the emerald hair tie. An image of me involuntarily appeared before his eyes. Robert, your stomach isn't feeling well, eat this. Robert, your leg hasn't healed yet, your cane. Robert. His hand suddenly burned. Coming back to his senses, the image of the lively girl vanished, replaced by the searing heat of a cigarette burn. I would never miss any chance to get close to him, thick-skinned beyond belief. Now, would I hide because of the online private photos? Robert Blackwood didn't believe it. But seeing the messages on his phone disappear without a trace, something that never happened before, made Robert Blackwood even more agitated. He exhaled a few more smoke rings and couldn't resist contacting Chloe Miller. Has Clara returned home? The words were on his lips, but he couldn't bring himself to say them. Robert, the business club gala is auctioning a very pure emerald raw gemstone. Would you come with me to take a look? Chloe Miller asked tentatively. Okay. Robert Blackwood agreed after thinking for 2 seconds. After the auction, Robert Blackwood, while smoking a cigar, casually admired the trending topic. CEO of Blackwood Industries spent a fortune, a lavish public display to please her. David, give the order. Pick the best part of this raw gemstone with the finest clarity and make a pair of bracelets. Send them to the Miller family. David was slightly taken aback. Recovering, he immediately agreed. Who else could it be but Miss Chloe Miller? He lightly shook his head, dismissing the unrealistic thought. Just as he was about to withdraw, he was stopped again. Oh, right. Also send the latest season's emerald-fitted dress to the Miller family. I will attend the engagement party on time tonight. Robert Blackwood rubbed his crutch carefully as he instructed casually. Understood. David got up and left. A smile he couldn't suppress played on the man's lips. He disdained my little tricks because, in his eyes, I was just throwing a tantrum over him. As long as he attended the engagement party on time tonight, I would still follow him around like a puppy, just like before. The cigar hadn't finished burning, but Robert Blackwood couldn't wait any longer. After extinguishing it, he immediately headed to the engagement party private room. There was half an hour left before the party began. Chloe Miller walked into the private room wearing an emerald-fitted dress, sitting down demurely, looking like the protagonist of the engagement party. Robert Blackwood glimpsed the flash of green, and his eyebrows furrowed slightly. The rhythm of his fingers tapping the crutch became somewhat rapid. He asked David in a low voice, "Didn't I tell you to send the dress to Clara Miller? Why is Chloe wearing it?" David froze for several seconds. A chill ran down his spine. He replied tremblingly, "I thought you were sending it to Miss Chloe Miller." "Mr. Blackwood, haven't you always disliked Miss Clara Miller?" The man fell silent after hearing this. "All right, you don't need to go anymore." Sweat beaded on David's forehead. He breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, he didn't have to wait for me outside the door anymore. In contrast, Robert Blackwood's face grew darker and darker until Chloe Miller couldn't help but say, feeling wronged, "Everyone is here." "Can the engagement party begin, Robert? Everyone is here? Where's Clara Miller? I'm fulfilling the engagement agreement as planned. How long is she going to keep making a scene?" After the loud impact of the crutch, the private room fell completely silent. "Robert, what are you talking about? Clara Miller's engagement with the Sterling family from Metropolis was set a long time ago. She got married the night before last. Isn't today our engagement party?" Chloe Miller asked tentatively, forcing a smile. Robert Blackwood was stunned. After a moment of shock, he regained his composure, his tightly furrowed brows clearly showing his displeasure. His heart ached heavily, and his breathing was erratic. He attributed it to being angry. It must be, Robert Blackwood firmly believed. 3 minutes later, using the excuse of feeling unwell, David left with him. Inside the spacious black car, Robert Blackwood found it hard to believe. "Clara, she got married? Mr. Blackwood, you must be satisfied now." No one will stand in the way of you and Miss Chloe Miller anymore, David said cheerfully, trying to impress him. Hearing this, the man's irritation between his brows became even more apparent. Just as he was about to scold David for talking too much, his phone rang. It was a video call from Chloe Miller. Her eyes were red with grievance, and her gaze was lowered. She looked like a helpless little bit shedding tears. Robert, are you feeling all right? If you don't want to marry me, I'll explain to Mom and Dad and actively break off the engagement. I won't make things difficult for you. Robert Blackwood suppressed the impatience in his heart and said softly to Chloe Miller, Chloe, don't overthink it. Something came up at the company. I'll come see you tomorrow. He ended the video call directly. An image of me appeared in his mind uncontrollably. At the moment I was abandoned in the crowd, was I also very sad? Robert Blackwood didn't want to think too much and threw himself into high-intensity work for 5 days to numb himself. When he heard David's request, that a Miller family daughter invited him to a birthday party, the man was stunned for several seconds. Without lifting his head, he coldly refused, but instructed David to send tens of millions worth of jewelry. He turned around and got blackout drunk. Late at night, Robert Blackwood dragged his exhausted body back to the villa. A woman was sitting on the soft leather sofa, wearing the emerald hair tie. His drunkenness faded, and joy surged in his heart. He knew it. I would never bear to leave. Looking at my back, Robert Blackwood dropped the troublesome cane. Ignoring his old leg injury, he forcefully embraced me. Love bloomed in his heart, and he couldn't hold it back anymore. I love you. I do love you, Clara. Before he could say the words, Robert Blackwood's body trembled, and he let go. Why is it you? What are you still doing here? The man's tone was stiff, as if driving her away. This isn't where you should be. I'll have David take you back. Faced with such a cold attitude, Chloe Miller couldn't bear it. She immediately put on her submissive act again, saying softly to Robert Blackwood, Robert, do you not want to marry me anymore? It's okay, I can wait. After all, I was in the convent for 7 years, I'm used to it. Watching Chloe Miller cry and whine, Robert Blackwood's last shred of patience completely vanished. Without changing his expression, he dialed a number and said to David, cancel the engagement agreement with the Miller family. Immediately. As soon as he finished speaking, bodyguards immediately stepped forward and pulled the woman, who was throwing a tantrum, out the door. In the silent night, Robert Blackwood finally couldn't hold back. The day the engagement agreement is to be fulfilled is the day after tomorrow. Clara, stop being childish. I'll pick you up tomorrow. I recently got some material and made you a bracelet. It's your favorite emerald color. After sending the message, the man belatedly remembered the flash of green on Chloe Miller's head. Driving to the Miller family home, Robert Blackwood intended to go straight upstairs but was stopped by the nanny. Aunt Martha took out the amulet in her hand and presented it with both hands. Mr. Blackwood, Clara asked me to return this to you. She said you are now quits. The familiar amulet. Robert Blackwood's heart tightened. This was the amulet he had carried since childhood. 7 years ago, during a business trip, he was caught in a sudden landslide that broke his leg. Chloe Miller rescued him without regard for the danger, and the amulet disappeared then. Later, Chloe Miller insisted on entering a convent, and he had always mistakenly believed she was the one who had saved him back then. The amulet in his hand felt strangely hot. Could it be that the one who saved him was Clara Miller all along? The man couldn't believe it and was determined to get to the bottom of it. Robert Blackwood strode upstairs but unexpectedly heard sounds of intimacy. What is that, Robert Blackwood? How dare he upset you? That carefully planned landslide 7 years ago didn't take his life. Now he's asking for death again. I'll get rid of him. Darling, don't feel sorry for him, okay? Who would feel sorry for him? If I didn't need him to provoke Clara Miller, I wouldn't have begged you to spare his life. Good. Very good. His knuckles clutching the amulet turned white and cracked audibly. Robert Blackwood turned and went downstairs, speaking earnestly to Aunt Martha while taking out his phone to contact David. He would make Chloe Miller know what regret felt like. In less than 10 minutes, an unedited live stream quickly went viral. The man gripped Chloe Miller's slender waist, his movements not stopping. The two talked brazenly, completely unaware they had gone viral across the entire network. Is this the Miller family's nun? I think she's a succubus. Look at that ecstatic expression. Oh my God, my waist is tingling. Am I the only one who sees the burn scar on her collarbone? Doesn't everyone think it's very similar to those online photos? Especially their posture, it's really too alike. Not to mention, a week ago I attended her family reunion party with my dad. The Miller family's biological daughter is completely out of favor. Their company will belong to this adopted daughter from now on. She probably used a lot of tricks. Crossing his legs and tapping his crutch, Robert Blackwood was satisfied with the uproar online. The two continued carrying on, completely oblivious. Back then, Chloe Miller used reporters to make me an object of public humiliation. Now, he would make Chloe Miller taste what it was like to be publicly humiliated. When the two finished and emerged from the back door, with no time for a sweet farewell, reporters swarmed forward. Miss Chloe Miller, what was the purpose of live streaming your entire intimate encounter? Was it to raise funds for Miller Corporation, which you are about to inherit? Get lost! Her lover roared angrily. I don't understand what you're saying. Get out, all of you. Stop filming. The flashlights were blindingly bright. Pushing her lover into the crowd, Chloe Miller turned, intending to go back inside alone, but her hand hit the doorknob and wouldn't budge. On the other side of the door, Aunt Martha gently turned the knob. Looking at the time display showing 11:30, she smiled faintly. After all, Chloe Miller had strictly ordered that no one was allowed to move around after 11 o'clock. Chloe Miller froze for a moment facing the door. Not only did reporters surround her from behind, but her lover also stepped forward first, grabbing her by the neck. What? You use me and then throw me away? Do you think I'm a fool? The man babbled on, listing all the malicious things Chloe Miller had done. Facing countless recording cameras, Chloe Miller's breath hitched, and she almost fainted. The farce was interrupted by father and mother, who had rushed back. Her lover was sent to the police station. Chloe Miller's reputation was completely ruined, and at the same time, she was disowned by the Miller family and kicked out that night. She couldn't believe that father and mother, who had always doted on and loved her, would actually abandon her. The red marks on her face hadn't faded. Chloe Miller, unwilling to give up, continued to pound on the door, shouting inside, "Mom and Dad." In the video, Chloe Miller was crying hysterically. Robert Blackwood smiled with satisfaction and forwarded it to me. No one will steal your home anymore. Clara, can I come and take you home? 1 minute passed. The screen remained calm as water. An hour passed. The screen remained green. In the past, whenever he softened his tone, I would take the hint and shamelessly approach him. But now, I didn't reply, not even a single word. The man felt a bit panicked. He couldn't wait any longer. Without resting for a moment, he rushed to catch the earliest flight to Metropolis. The plane landed. Robert Blackwood didn't care about his wrinkled clothes and hurried towards the Sterling family home, simply because David had called him 3 minutes earlier and told him, "Mr. Blackwood, I found out Miss Clara Miller's wedding banquet is being held today. It's too late even if you go now." The sounds around him became a blur, indistinguishable. Only the two words "too late" echoed in his mind. Robert Blackwood's breath hitched. His heart felt as if a large hand was squeezing it hard, making the corners of his eyes red with pain. Beep, beep. 2 horn blasts. The man ignored the sharp pain of being hit by a car. He pulled out a black card, threw it at the driver, snatched the driver's seat, and sped away at 180 miles per hour. Is he crazy? The driver was stunned, clutching the black card in his hand. In the past, if anyone spoke disrespectfully, Robert Blackwood would never let them off the hook. But now, Robert Blackwood didn't care anymore. He only wanted to go faster, even faster. Watching the phone navigation get closer and closer, the man felt both panic and a hint of excitement in his heart. Scenes of us meeting appeared in his mind uncontrollably. Clara, how dare you say yes to him? Clara, I'm here. I'm here to take you home. Countless words surged in his heart. Robert Blackwood couldn't wait any longer and rushed into the wedding banquet. When he saw me standing on the green lawn in a wedding dress, he froze. All the words he had prepared were forgotten. Grabbing my fair wrist, the man blurted out, "Clara, don't leave me." Meeting the man's bloodshot eyes, I coldly shook my hand free. "Mr. Blackwood, please mind your manners. My husband might get jealous." "Him? How could that be?" Robert Blackwood noticed the man beside me, utterly unwilling to believe. "That's right." The rumor said Daniel Sterling was not only disfigured but also a cripple who couldn't stand up. I had believed it back then too. That was just because he disliked attending social events and was rumored about by others. Later, he was injured in an accident and spent a few years recovering, which led to misunderstandings. I scoffed and shook my head, skillfully linking my arm through Daniel Sterling's. "ISM." Alden answered evasively, "Mr. Blackwood, we welcome your presence, Daniel and I. Please make yourself at home." Hearing this, Robert Blackwood stumbled and fell to his knees. The next moment, he gripped the crutch in his hand, trying to stand up repeatedly, falling down again and again, yet not saying a word of help. In the past, I had cherished his leg the most and couldn't bear to see it get even a little injured. Now, even if Robert Blackwood's leg was ruined, I could turn and leave without changing my expression. Because the person who broke his leg saving me back then wasn't him at all, it was Daniel Sterling. That year, during my Miller family reunion journey, I suddenly encountered a landslide. Countless boulders rolled down. As I closed my eyes, resigned to my fate, a man pushed me away, saving my life, but was struck in the leg by a boulder himself and buried under the rocks. When the rescue team arrived, they dug out Robert Blackwood with a broken leg. I mistakenly believed he was my savior, completely unaware there was still someone else beneath. If Daniel Sterling hadn't fallen for me at first sight, I would have been deceived my entire life. "Let's go," I said softly, without any lingering feelings. As soon as I finished speaking, Daniel Sterling's face lit up. He squeezed the hand I had linked with his and immediately instructed the butler, "Add another set of tableware. This is my wife's family, my good brother-in-law. Make sure to treat him well." Seeing my cold expression and hearing Daniel Sterling's subtly competitive words, Robert Blackwood couldn't keep up his pretense. He suddenly stood up, grabbed my skirt, pulled out a video he had prepared, and begged me to watch it. Seeing that I was unmoved, Robert Blackwood became frantic. Just as a staff member adding charcoal to the grill passed by, the man, like someone grabbing a life raft, disregarded the pain of the scorching heat, picked up a piece, and pressed it to his collarbone. Bloody and burnt, the smell of scorching flesh filled the air. Robert Blackwood dragged his lame leg, inching towards me, and begged me again. Looking at the familiar spot, I subconsciously touched my own collarbone. Here, too, he had once burned me, leaving a scar. It truly hurt. I understood. So, I didn't soften my heart at all. I took Daniel Sterling's hand and quickened our pace to leave. Leaving Robert Blackwood, who had chased after me for 7 years, to be laughed at because of his lame leg. In this situation, he didn't continue to make a scene. Instead, he quietly sat down at a table and ate the wedding cake expressionlessly. I thought he had given up. Only after the wedding ended did Robert Blackwood drag his severely injured body away. But he didn't truly leave. After bandaging his wounds and taking painkillers, the man, unwilling to give up, waited every day on the path I took to work. 99 exquisite South African roses were the standard, and jewelry flowed in like water every day, without interruption for 7 consecutive days. On the 8th day, there was another unwelcome guest, Chloe Miller. "Clara, you're living so well." She looked at me somewhat sadly and said, "I really envy you for being born into a good family. Even if I snatched your parents and the man you loved, you still managed to find a different path. Why didn't I have that?" Her furious shout was somewhat frantic. I sensed something was wrong and lifted my foot, wanting to quickly leave. The next moment, a cold, flashing knife was held to my neck. "No, don't be impulsive, Chloe Miller." The belated Robert Blackwood pleaded desperately with Chloe Miller. Seeing the man's anxiety, a hint of playfulness appeared in Chloe Miller's eyes. "You kneel down for me, and I'll consider letting." With a thump, before she could finish speaking, the man's knees hit the ground heavily. Seeing this scene, Chloe Miller became even more enraged. The knife in her hand trembled uncontrollably. Seizing the opportunity, Robert Blackwood suddenly stood up and tried to wrest the knife away with his bare hands, intending to subdue Chloe Miller. But he underestimated the crazed woman. During the frantic struggle, the knife repeatedly went in and out of the man's abdomen. In his effort to protect me, Robert Blackwood was somewhat overwhelmed, and blood flowed continuously. Finally, just as he was completely exhausted, the police arrived. They quickly subdued Chloe Miller and put silver handcuffs on her. Unwilling to give up, she continued to shriek, "Clara, you bitch. Even if I become a ghost, I won't let you go." "Fine. If you become a ghost, come find me again. I promise I'll make sure you're scattered and unable to reincarnate." Watching Chloe Miller being taken away, I turned to look at Robert Blackwood on the ambulance stretcher. Before I could speak, the man explained frantically, "How she got here, I really don't know. This wasn't a trick on my part. Clara, believe me." Hearing this, my expression became even colder. After looking him up and down, I said disdainfully, "I didn't expect, Mr. Blackwood, that you would become increasingly skilled at using tricks." I knew it wasn't him, but I deliberately refused to believe it because I wanted him to taste what it was like to be misunderstood. As soon as I finished speaking, Robert Blackwood's anger surged, and he spat out a mouthful of blood, choking him so he couldn't speak. But his hand was still outstretched, begging me not to leave. "Robert Blackwood, I can forgive you. I'll forgive you when you're dead." Later, Robert Blackwood was severely injured and paralyzed, becoming a living dead man. Miller Corporation went bankrupt, and father and mother ended up on the streets. As for me, I took Aunt Martha, the nanny, treated her like my own mother, and cared for her in her old age within the Sterling family.